Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let That Sink In. My name is Tiffany Smith, and I am the Director of Marketing here at PM and Associates. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, Todd Morgan, outside sales rep in St. Louis. How you doing, Todd?
Doing great. Thank you, Tiffany.
Awesome. We are on episode 18 of Let That Sink In, the final one of 2023. Can you believe that?
Amazing that we've done 18 of these.
we are at the end of the road for the year. And we
Yeah.
are finishing with a bang.
Yes, we are.
So excited. We are so excited to have our guest today, Andy Warnes from Sloan, the Director of Technical Training. We are so excited to have Andy with us today. Welcome, Andy. How you doing today?
Thanks, Tiffany. Thanks, Todd. It is so great. I've been excited about this all week. So ready to go. Want to end the 2023 year with the best podcast ever, and
I
then
like it.
finish it home with family and staying warm and enjoying the holidays.
Oh, we
That
are so
sounds wonderful.
excited to have you on. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Andy, and your career at Sloan? We would love to hear more about you.
Well, hey, thanks for the opportunity. It's I think I'm a little bit of a square peg that fit into a round hole really well, because I was an Army sergeant for many years, and the Army paid for my college education, and which was a great opportunity. And my background is really water and wastewater technology. And I came to Sloan to take over a product line management position for automatic sensor faucets, which is really a great opportunity, something that was very exciting for me. And I didn't understand the plumbing industry, but they said, okay, you understand the materials, you understand the regulatory, you understand the reliability that has to come, you understand the use and abuse that we're going to find out in the field for our products. You understand how competitive the plumbing industry and any sort of industry can be. You'll learn plumbing, but you know the water conditions, et cetera. I thought, great, I'll love that. Did that for many, many years, and an opportunity came up to take over the role of head of technical training. I thought, you know what? After years and years as an Army sergeant and a product line manager of telling people what to do and how to do it, this was just an absolute natural fit.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about getting into technical training is now it's all about video, right? Everybody wants to see what they're doing.
Right.
And so using the technology that's out there, it's really an exciting time to be working within a studio, all the digital tools that we have to put information out there, and all the audiences that we can reach globally. So it's like right time, right place, right amount of fun. And that's pretty much me.
That's
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. That's great. I bet you were busy during COVID then, during that time frame when everybody was on Teams and doing their trainings and their meetings that way. I would imagine you had a lot of screen time.
That was an interesting period because we were getting ready to build an on-site, hands-on training center, literally the Taj Mahal of training. And then COVID hit.
Oh my gosh.
And nobody was going to come into physical contact with anyone else for a long time.
Right.
And we at Sloan, we thought our business was going to start going down because our traditional customers, the hotels, the airports, the retail spaces, the schools and universities,
Sure.
concert halls, arenas, all of those were going to be emptied out. And what we didn't anticipate during the pandemic was that we're the largest manufacturer of automatic touch-free restroom equipment, and there was gonna, well, think about it.
Yeah. Opportunity.
And business almost doubled overnight. And I understand not everybody had a great pandemic.
Sure.
Sure.
It was very difficult for many people, but our business boomed, and we had to pivot and take training virtual. And so that's what we did. We started with webinars. We started with podcasts. We started doing PowerPoint meetings and just built up an expertise in producing content and getting it out and making it available to as many people as possible. And that led to the creation of an online learning center, a kind of an on-demand. If anybody needs to know something about a piece of equipment from Sloan that they're going to be working on, you can actually watch the video as you're walking up the stairs and understand what you're dealing with. That's a whole different
so
story.
Cool. Yeah.
And we we train for a whole bunch of different generations. So whether it's a millennial or whether it's a boomer
Hmm.
or, however, that, that's an interesting story unto itself. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yep,
Yeah.
we'd like to too, for sure.
Well, also, Andy, you were a very integral part of the IoT Bluetooth enabled products, correct? You were a very big part of that team, right? So what year did those products enter the market?
That started as a bet in 2015.
Really?
And,
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about that story. Yeah.
I'm intrigued.
I never bet more than $1. I know a lot of people will bet the house, but for me,
Right.
I'm too cheap and I'll bet $1.
I'm right there with you.
And there was somebody I was working with, and I said, you know what? I'll bet you $1 that I can launch. I'll bet you $1 that I can launch internet connected and IoT capable, a wireless product before you can. And he said, sure. We shook hands on it. We made the bet. And I was the product line manager for faucets at the time. And this was, late 20 teens, and nobody really knew what IoT was. A lot of people didn't even know what the acronym meant. Internet of Things. What does that really mean? So we had to hunker down and we had to talk to a lot of our customers and say, if your products could tell you something, what do you want to know? How often do you want to know it? How quickly do you want to know it? What's useful for you and what's fluff? Because at the time, it was a big period when people were throwing Bluetooth or wireless connectivity into their products and marketing it for being wireless, not because it was going to be useful, but just because it had that tech buzz
Right.
around it.
Right.
And
Yep.
so
It
we
was
look at
trendy.
Bluetooth coffee makers,
Yeah.
Bluetooth toothbrushes.
Right.
Yeah.
Where are all those nowadays? They're
Yeah.
probably down at the
Bluetooth
Goodwill
socks,
on the
yeah.
electronic. Yeah, exactly. So if we were going to create wireless, it actually had to be relevant and it had to be useful and it had to be intuitive. So that was a lot of work. I would say most manufacturers have a hard time with Internet of Things connected product because they're used to dealing with metal and plastic and rubber and solid products, but they don't realize that digital can be anything that you want it to be. But the person at the other end, the person who's actually using it every day, has to understand it as if it was totally intuitive. So we took about 3 years to develop faucets that automatically had a Bluetooth chip built into them. And the reason they had a Bluetooth chip in it was because we wanted a product that could connect with a smartphone, because 96% of the plumbers and the facility maintenance persons and the facility managers, they carry smartphones with them. It's pretty much ubiquitous now. And we wanted an app that would allow them to have an intuitive screen that they could interact with products, make the app free on Google Play or the Apple App Store. And we wanted them to be able to go into their facilities and work with their products and communicate with their products without interrupting customers. Let's say that you're a facility manager for an airport. Do you really want to take that yellow, work in progress tape and shut off an entire restroom in a busy airport terminal?
Right.
Or rather, you send your people in there with a wireless device so that they can communicate without interrupting people. And we wanted to make it easy for plumbers too. We didn't want them to have to get on their backs in a public bathroom, take apart a sink enclosure, disconnect a faucet, wire it up or anything. Just do it wirelessly. And so we launched those products in 2018.
Okay.
And we raced to get it to market because we figured everybody else was going to be racing to get that kind of technology to market, right? When we got it out there, we found later that it took 5 years for anybody to really catch up to what we were doing. Because most people didn't realize within our industry how hard it is to make a truly useful, effective, communicative product.
Right.
So what we
And
did,
this product is just amazing. I've
really
been able
is.
to see it firsthand.
Fascinating
It's
to me.
just incredible. Yeah.
well, you figure, what can a faucet tell you? A faucet can tell you when it's on, when it's off, for how long it's on and off, how much water it dispenses, what the sensor range is, how you can adjust the sensor range. It can tell you whether it's solenoid or an electronic components are working correctly. It can, at the time, one of the things that our customers were asking us for, particularly customers in the healthcare industry,
Hmm.
they're asking, give us a way so that we can flush the water out of our distribution lines because they were worried about stagnant water, in
Sure.
particular Legionella.
Hmm.
So we figured, okay, if we have wireless communication, then we can give them the way to set up the programming of line flushes with a smartphone so that they can time that line flush
Hmm.
for their particular facility, and they can clear out stagnant water. And more importantly, they can bring residual disinfectant, the chlorine, back into the distribution lines. And if part of the facility isn't used, or if they're under a Legionella mitigation order or something, they can program in order to suit their particular situation. And that has been a big, huge benefit. A lot of facilities are using it now. And it's nice to see, if imitation is flattery, we've also stimulated a lot of flattery out there.
Sure,
Yes.
sure. Going back to the gimmicky part, if you will, of connected products, right? My first thought when I think of a connected faucet or a connected flush valve was exactly that, right? Who needs this? What would you need this for?
Right.
You've already, just in this short conversation, grocery listed several benefits that product is going to provide. So obviously this IoT technology is changing the way bathrooms now are being designed. You've got engineers and architects that are embracing this technology. So how has the bathroom design changed with this introduction of IoT connected product that can tell the person or the building owner or whatnot so much information?
I don't think it's so much that the bathroom has changed. I think that the plumbing industry is catching up to what's going on in the wider world.
Sure.
And I can explain that. Nowadays, when you go into a commercial facility, you find that there is some sort of building management system that allows the manager of that facility to see how a number of systems are functioning and supporting the day-to-day operations of the building. You've got HVAC, you've got security, you've got water supply, you've got hydronics, you have fire suppression. All of these are hooked into a wider data bubble, so to speak. And as an equipment supplier, you're either contributing to that data bubble or you're outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we were aware of is that the days when an elementary school, for example, has 5 maintenance personnel who have the time and the skills to go out and perform preventative maintenance on a regular schedule, or even do predictive maintenance, those days are over. Now it's more than likely that you've got one guy who's responsible for several buildings. So you've actually
Right.
got a fraction of a person, and they're rushing around and they're putting out fires.
Yeah.
And the skills are very valuable, but time management has become much more prioritized than before. They're probably working at a reduced budget. They don't have access to spares on site as much as they had before. So as much information as they can pull from their systems to help them complete more tasks and be on top of maintenance and be on top of system performance, it's more important than ever before. And I don't think the job's going to get any easier. And at the rate that maintenance and plumbers are retiring these days, particularly experienced personnel, this trend is just accelerating. So I think the bathroom was really the last part of commercial facilities that was fixed into this data bubble. Part of that was because people don't want cameras or sensors in such a personal space.
Sure.
So you really have to be conscious. I mean, you can go look on the web now, and there's a lot of memes about how the sensors on a flush valve or a sensor actually hold cameras. There's a lot of conspiracy theorists.
I'm sure there are.
Or how there's guides on how to block those with wads of wet toilet paper. All sorts of crazy stuff, out there. But the truth is that we were really late to the game when it came to connected products within the plumbing industry. And the question was, what benefits could we bring to our customers, and what would the information deliver to them? A couple of other technological advances had to happen. For example, having meters, or being able to meter such small amounts of water like the amount that goes through one faucet or one flush valve, and report that amount and add it up and aggregate it and put it onto a screen. Those are incredibly important. And I'll tell you, during field trials, this actually happened. I will tell you a story during field trials. One of our field trials was in a Las Vegas hotel casino, and enormous facilities, absolutely enormous. And in one of those, it was a 3,300 room resort.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
No,
And so
that's
they
huge.
have the rooms in several towers, and then you take the elevator down and you go into a lobby, which also has the main entrance over to the casino here and the other entrance into a 15,000 person special events or show facility. So there's a lot of traffic where the elevators meet the lobby, meets the show facility, and meets the casino. And we started putting these wireless faucets into the restrooms right there at this busiest point. And there was one sink deck with 4 faucets in a men's restroom that I will never forget, because you've got 4 faucets right in a row, right?
Yeah.
And you think, okay, men can be fairly predictable in their rest. You know, they're not going to wash their hands enough. You know, they're not going to wash their hands long enough. And you know, they're probably in a rush to get somewhere else.
Correct.
Right. Yeah.
You think,
Very
right?
predictable.
But as the data started coming from these particular faucets, we saw that the faucet on the far left was getting approximately 55,000 activations per month.
Okay.
And then the one next to it was about 45,000. And the one next to it was about 20,000. And the one next to that was only about 10,000.
Interesting.
Whoa, why? How come
Right.
the order of magnitude is like 5 to 1 from one end to the other?
Yeah.
Sure.
Never
Why?
thought about it. Why? And so I actually went in to check it out for myself and found out that in Las Vegas, you still have bathroom attendants who are there to hand out the napkins, and or the towels, and they have a tip jar.
Oh no.
And so to avoid having to tip the attendant, people would go to
the farthest faucet.
Go to the farthest one.
Oh,
And
we're funny creatures, aren't we?
So funny.
But that opens up the discussion of what are the things that you can actually learn as a plumbing manufacturer or as a facility. Devices are not used equally nowadays, whether you're changing batteries or whether you're performing maintenance, going through periodic maintenance. You just kind of assume that those 4 faucets would have the same amount of usage.
Right.
And so you're going to change or upgrade things or replace things on a planned schedule that maybe doesn't have to work that way.
Right.
Yeah, you save some money because you're maybe not replacing parts on that least used faucet, perhaps, maybe if you're doing regular maintenance. The other thing I was curious, did they share with the bathroom attendant that information so he could move his stool to the center of the faucetry
maybe
there?
like give the faucets some equal love, you know,
exactly.
like
or move to the other side so we could make that other faucet a little more action.
Oh, believe me, when you're responsible for designing this kind of product, you think of all sorts of things you could do.
Yeah.
But probably wouldn't be appreciated by the public in general.
Right.
For example, is it possible these days to lock the bathroom door so that people can't exit until they wash their hands effectively?
Oh, wow. Yeah, there you go.
I've always joked
that might not be appreciated. Yeah.
I don't
might
think
not
so.
be appreciated.
20 seconds.
Yeah, I'd like to do one where they can go out into the hallway, but if they haven't washed their hands with the CDC compliant hand wash, there's a big red X with a buzzer that goes.
Andy, share that with our listeners. We talked about that last time. What is the average? We were talking about the 20-second rule we all learned in COVID, right? Saying happy birthday.
Right.
Now you've got faucets that are giving us data in real time. What's the average that people are washing their hands?
No,
there's
I don't want to know.
There's some really fascinating insights that do develop.
I bet there are.
First of all, when you're in commercial space, you probably have a men's and a women's that are back to back. So you have identical number of sinks, identical number of faucets. The
Mhm.
traffic is relatively similar. Let's say in a school where you have a men's and women's, or in a shopping center, or even a hotel, men's, women's back to back. So you can make general comparisons between the duration of female hand washing and a male hand washing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we asked people and said, now, okay, people have estimated before, but now we know exactly who's washing their hands. Now, 20 seconds is the CDC recommendation. You have to have
Right.
20 seconds of lather, and then before you rinse. But the average is actually 8 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's overall for the entire public.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there are circumstances in which healthcare, for example, both men and women will take a little extra time. And I think that has
Mhm.
something to do with the environment that they're working in.
Sure.
But the analysis we made was, we found one population that has shorter hand washing tendencies than any other, and that is men in Las Vegas watching basketball tournaments.
Isn't that incredible that you can get that data?
Yeah,
I love it.
I feel like I could guess that without the data. I feel like I could have guessed like right off the bat.
Well,
I
it's-
Gotta get
I
back to
don't
the
need a
game.
survey for that. Yeah.
Well, it's 1.6 seconds, and our nickname for
Yeah.
that is Splash and Dash.
Splash and
Wow.
dash.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
that's
it.
that's not
And
washing
that's
your
the
hands at
official
that point.
term for it, splash and dash. I love that. Yeah.
So we,
You know-
go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, Andy, and this is just, again, something you made me think of as we're talking about the connected product, going back to the 4 faucets and the data that you got from those faucets. I would think an architect would love that type of information, again, because now we start thinking about where we're placing our towel holders, right? Where we're
Mhm.
putting the hand dryer on the wall. I mean, those are all bits of information, though, that will actually change the design of a commercial bathroom space with that kind of
Right.
information for a more efficient space.
You're
Absolutely.
exactly right. And you're right on the money. And one of the aspects that people are most helpful for data that supports new thinking or supports continuing what we do is something called the Hunter curve. And so when we design buildings nowadays, we assume that there's going to be a certain amount of toilets, urinals, sinks, faucets, hand dryers, or whatever to support a population, whether it's a permanent population or whether it's a transient population. And that will dictate the size of the restroom, that will dictate how many stalls, that will dictate
Mhm.
how many sinks, et cetera. But those are estimates. What if we were able to actually use real world bathroom data in order to modify the Hunter curve, or to go about design with more factual, realistic information about how people tend to use commercial restrooms? And then you get into another philosophical discussion about, should you design bathrooms around the way that people should be using the restrooms, or the way they actually use the restrooms?
Right.
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 Because they should be washing their hands for 20 seconds,
Right.
but they actually are going to use around 8.
Right.
So one of the things that we've been able to do is we've actually developed faucets with screens. They're liquid crystal screens, or LED screens, excuse me, that actually show people, walk them through the process of washing their hands, show the water, and you should be washing your hands, and measuring whether your hands are in front of the soap or whether your hands are in front of the water, and reporting to you with fireworks going off or whatever, if you've
Right.
successfully
That's
completed a
great.
CDC compliant hand wash.
Pretty cool.
That's awesome. So
See
encouragement.
that being big in grade
encouragement
schools.
and support. Yes, to do it the right way.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Well, Andy, Sloan talks a lot on their website about 3 I's that pertain to the IoT products, the
Mhm.
intelligent, insight, and interaction. Can you
Mhm.
talk to me a little bit more about these 3 I's?
Well, let's start with intelligent, because
Yeah.
the word that most people use to define a connected product is smart. The thing about having a restroom that's smart is that it has to be able to deliver data. That data has to be relevant, it has to be timely, and it has to be actionable. So if I'm learning something in real time that's going on in the restroom, let's say that I have a leak, or let's say that I have a product that's not working, or if I have something that's near the end of its battery life, then I need to get that information to the right person in the right place at the right time so that they can do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it encompasses all of those three I's. So, I mean, if I wanted to define the benefits of what makes IoT products meaningful for plumbing customers, I'd have to say, they're not going to say, I need this data point or that data point. They're going to generalize and they're going to say, I need something that saves me time.
Yep.
I need something that saves me money. I need something that helps me make more money. I need something that keeps my facility healthy. I need something that keeps my facility compliant. I want something that makes me look good or my facility look good.
Mm-hmm.
And the big one is just make my life easier. And so if a manufacturer can demonstrably demonstrate that the smart products are making the life of a facility owner, a facility manager, a plumber, a maintenance person easier, then you're on the right track.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was really one of my follow-up questions to that was, the advantage to the building owner or that facility management maintenance person. I mean, that's huge what this stuff. And again, as we came into this podcast, you think really a connected faucet, a connected flush valve, but I mean, the benefits are huge for that building owner. Maybe not for the person who's actually using that product, but boy, for the building owner and for the maintenance department, it just seems like that's just huge technology.
Well, that's on the, these are the people who actually get their hands onto the products, who are actually going to be doing work within the restroom. But then you have another realm of customers for that data. For example, let's say if it's going to be a sustainably conceived structure, and they are going to go for LEED certification, you can claim to deliver a certain amount of water within LEED requirements, but you have to prove it within the first year. And you can either go in and physically take the measurements, or you can have these devices that are actually reporting the data in real time and proving that you've done what you said you were going to do with that facility. Also, if you have a facility that has concerns about stagnant water, has concerns about healthcare, has concerns about aerosolization of Legionella, then you're able to demonstrate with a digital timestamp that you were taking proper precautions in order to prevent contamination within your facility. Because when it comes to Legionella, you don't know where somebody might have picked up a case of Legionella or been contaminated with it. But they always seem to walk into the facility with the deepest pockets.
You bet. I was just going to say that's a huge benefit for somebody to be able to at least help them in a legal case as it relates to Legionella.
And then nowadays, let's say that you are a sustainability officer for a state university system. Or even for a real estate trust that has a number of properties. There's a lot of investment being put into facility benchmarking. Which facilities are truly efficient, which ones are truly effective, which ones are truly sustainable, and how do they compare to each other, and how can you use the one that performs the best, is operating most efficiently, and use that as the benchmark for the entire group of properties. So lots of interesting things are happening now. And even the conversion of older buildings, where you had older buildings that were designed for much higher flows, 5 gallon per flush toilets, 2.2 gallons per minute faucets, those back in the 70s when we had everything really cheap, right?
Yeah, right.
And now we're trying to put very restrictive water usage on them, and we're trying to use very heat efficient systems. We're recirculating, et cetera. All of it goes into that data bubble, and a higher performing facility is one that generates more revenue, that operates at lower cost, and that has effective equipment for the person who's maintaining those to be more effective and more efficient at what they do. So benefits all around for many people. Are we becoming used to adapting to those technologies yet? Maybe. It'll get there.
Yeah. Which leads me to my next question.
Yeah.
And before I do that, we have some great visual aids that I would love for you
Uh,
to pull up on the screen here.
so let me share my screen with
Yes,
you.
absolutely.
Okay.
Andy has this fantastic PowerPoint that he shared with
Yeah,
us
it really is
a couple
interesting.
weeks ago. And I would love to share with our audience today.
How does that look?
That
Looks
looks
good.
fantastic, Andy.
Okay.
This is such an important conversation to have. So I wanted him to share this on the podcast today.
Well,
And
you know,
yeah,
go ahead. So sorry, Tiffany.
yeah, absolutely. No, we were just going to talk about, yes, as IoT becomes more prominent, Andy, in commercial restrooms, yeah, we would assume that older generations of plumbers are more resistant to the connected products. As you just briefly mentioned, the products, while younger plumbers are probably seeking out the connected products. So in your experience, how are the products being received differently among the different generations?
That is a very open-ended and interesting question, right? So let me dive into personal experience.
Yes.
I do a lot of training and presentations in front of groups of plumbers or facility managers or architect and design personnel. And a lot of times, I've seen people speak about IoT and get a lot of blank stares back.
Okay.
It's like, what does that mean for me?
Yes.
I actually had somebody at a great plumber's union say, all you want to do is have smart products so you can hire the cheapest people and put me out of a job. And I thought, oh, okay, I get why somebody might have that concern
Mhm,
because it happens all over the place. It's like the threat of artificial intelligence
mhm.
for some
Right.
careers. But I I thought about it and I explained it. Said, well, let's talk about what your job is like nowadays, and let me see if there's something that, as a manufacturer, Sloan can do to improve that. And I started talking about how the nature of the plumbers themselves and the way they go about their job is changing. And it's not because there's some sort of business pressure on it, it's because there's demographic pressure on it.
Sure.
That the nature of the workforce in the United States and in other countries is changing,
Mhm.
probably already changed beyond what we recognize. And so I put together this graphic here that goes through all the decades from, like, Sloan was founded in 1906. So I went through every decade and I compared it to a generation that was in place and working during that decade. And so we have two generations that are really the bulwark, the hard workers in the plumbing space, the baby boomers and Gen X. So anybody
Mhm.
born between 1946 and 1980, those two generations really are the people who grew up with the products that are out in the market. They know Sloan very well. I mean, we're
Mhm.
the largest manufacturer in the space, so we're pretty much ubiquitous. And these are the guys who know our products. They, by sight, by sound, by touch, they just know what they've come up against because they've experienced it before. They know how to deal with it. They're going to drive 50 miles to change a 50-cent part. And they're really the let's fix it before we replace it kind of generation.
Mhm.
And these guys are going to be retiring. And you'll see here, we've marked the years when they get to their 80% retirement point. So you've got about a little less than 10 more years for the boomers till they're off to Florida and they're not paying any more taxes and they're enjoying the sun, and maybe about 20 years for Gen X. And then you've got the follow-on generations. And these are the people who have grown up in entirely different circumstances. And a lot of people, and I like this, we have Gen Y, Gen Z, and then Generation Alpha after that. And the reason we go Y, Z, then A is because it's kind of like hurricanes where you go to the end of the
Right.
alphabet and then you go completely cycle through it again. But
Yeah.
this generation, these three generations actually became the majority of the labor force back in 2016.
Wow.
So a lot of the observations we're making about changes to the workforce and the way they do things, we're looking in the rear view mirror, because this is a generation that when it comes to the knowledge that they're applying, they're used to Googling it, because Google's already been around for more than 20 years, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those ways where you can quickly get to the information you want to service or maintain or replace a commercial plumbing product. And the fact of the matter is that those generations, the Ys, the Zs, and the Alphas, tend to go about their jobs a little bit differently,
Mm-hmm.
and they're working with it in different circumstances. I'd say back in the day when the boomers and Gen X were actually building and maintaining public restrooms, there weren't enough products to overwhelm anyone. But nowadays, there's a lot of interconnected products. There's sink systems that have faucets and soap dispensers and hand dryers. They're sensor operated. You have baby changing stations. You have stalls that might have occupancy lights. You have all sorts of devices like light sensors or temperature monitors within the restroom, and nobody can possibly know how to service or maintain all of those. So making sure that people who are going into the restrooms now have all that information has become critical for plumbing equipment manufacturers like Sloan. And we're looking at supporting those that are managing skill loss as their experienced employees retire, retaining good people and training the new people that are coming up. And here's some data that many people, when they're presented with it, they're kind of surprised. You look at the age range of each one of these generations and how the average age of the U.S. Worker has played out, and you'll find that the average age of a U.S. worker is 38 years old, and architects, designers, and engineers are somewhere in their low 40s. But when it comes to the trades, particularly plumbers, pipe fitters, and steam fitters, they're about 10 years older. They're actually part of an older generation, or a mix that skews towards older generations. And when you get to facility engineers and master plumbers, you're getting up to around the upper 50s, 58 in the case of master plumbers. So these are people who are actually preparing for retirement.
Yeah, that's a scary number, actually.
Yeah.
And that needs to either, the people who are working now, we need many more people to go into these trades, or we need them to be able to work smarter and faster, more efficient, and more effectively. So a lot of the technology that we've been talking about is geared in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
The plumbers themselves, this was surprising. If you go and you look at the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, there's about 500,000 plumbers, steam fitters, and pipe fitters in the United States. And that the attrition rate for plumbers is around 10% a year. And it's actually accelerated in the past several years. So it's actually closer to 15% per year. And it's for all the right reasons. I mean, people are retiring, or they're getting out the business, striking out on their own. They're opening up their own firms or going into something new. Or because of the pandemic, they decided they want to open up that craft brewery, or they want to take care of family members, and they're going to change their lifestyle. So that means that best case scenario, or typical scenario, is that the plumbers who are actually in the market servicing our industry's products, they're going to be completely replaced in 10 years. We have a 100% attrition rate every decade. So
Wow.
there's a constant need for training and for skills, or products that are going to take people just coming into the market, and they're going to say to them, here's what's wrong, here's what you have to do, here's the best way to maintain me.
Right.
So there's an element of communication for people who are just coming into the job. And that's pretty much where we stand. We stand at the cusp of a huge generational shift, and we're not going back to the way things used to be done.
Mm-hmm.
there are not going to be enough people on staff. There's
Right.
not going to be enough budget for a whole bunch of replacements or spares. There is not going to be enough time to do anything except put out fires unless we use technology to help people get ahead of it and actually get into not only a preventative maintenance schedule, but a predictive maintenance schedule. And we've talked about that as an industry for decades, but the technology and the time is finally here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these slides are great to bring this all back to where we really started this conversation about your connected product and what advantages those are going to offer out in the field as the labor force thins. As you mentioned, more intelligent product that can help us with what the solutions are to the problem in that bathroom space. It's a fascinating discussion, Andy. It really is. I also tells me that there's a lot of opportunity for young people in the trades as well. So hopefully they will pursue those trades.
It now is I actually think it's a wonderful time to go into the trades. And, a lot of people say, I've got to choose my career. Like college kids are saying, I got to choose my career to be something that artificial intelligence isn't going to replace in a matter of years. What could be better than plumbing? You are always going, as long as you have humans somewhere, you will always need toilets and urinals and sinks.
Yep. So yeah, we need more young people in the trade, and it's a wonderful opportunity. And you don't have to be strapped with student loan debt after you, get some training as a plumber out there in the field. So hopefully we'll get more of them. But also grateful for you and for Sloan for developing products like this to make life easier as we do progress and as things generationally shift.
Andy, can you share a few of the newest products that you have introduced in the last year? Any new technologies that Sloan has developed into existing products?
I could, but I think that'd get really boring.
Okay.
And, and I think it might be more relevant to talk about that there are certain facilities, there are certain customers that will benefit from smart products. Those are the ones who are set up to collect data, they analyze data, and they want to set up an action-oriented plan to deal with that data in a timely manner. But that's not going to be every restroom. For every high-end A space in Manhattan or Santa Monica that is going to be sustainability minded, that is going to have top-notch, world-beating facilities and advantages for their customers and their clients. There's going to be the gas station in Central West Virginia that really isn't going to benefit from that and needs something that is going to be reliable, that is going to be cost effective, and that is going to last for a long time.
Yeah.
So as a manufacturer, we at Sloan, we have to be conscious of the fact that there are different products for different customers, and our real job is making those data-driven products available for those who want and need them. But for everyone else, the same rules that have always applied still apply. It has to be a good value. So we kind of have a marketing philosophy of good, better, best. The vast majority of products are going to be those good products. Those you see them everywhere. You're accustomed to them, and they need to be simple and they need to work, and that is it. And I could get into a discussion of, are our manual flush valves designed to be kicked, or do you have to touch them with your hand? That's a whole topic that people want to know about. And the answer is yes. We know you kicked them, and we designed them accordingly.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to touch them, right? So you have a good, better, best product strategy. So the best products might be the ones that have intelligence built into them. And here's the important part. Let's say that you are a growing, dynamic company. You're making your mark in the world. And in the beginning, when you needed something that was just good, it worked, the bathroom wasn't a focus, you need a way to upgrade that to better or best without having to rip out the whole system. We need to accommodate you as a successful customer so that you can accommodate your customers.
Yeah.
And we saw that during the pandemic, where the vast majority of installed flush valves, for example, are Sloan. The vast majority of them are manual, but we have kits that are used to upgrade those to automatic sensor. And you don't have to replace the whole thing, you just replace part of it. And it takes minutes. It's the most cost-effective way to do that upgrade. And a lot of people did that during the pandemic. They said, now's the time to go touch-free.
Right.
Take schools, for example. Now there's a lot of funding out there for education, public school upgrades. There are people who are thinking about the future, and they want to be able to use censored product, and they want those insights because they are building safe zones. They want places where kids can't use their phones. They want places where if somebody's been in the restroom for an inordinate amount of time, they're going to receive some sort of warning about that, an electronic one that doesn't invade anyone's privacy. They're going to want to know how efficient their products are. And they're moving towards, and I apologize if it's a trigger word for some people, but to gender neutral restrooms, where you have very private stalls, and then you have an open area that's used for hand hygiene and general utility purposes.
Sure.
So, you have to kind of go with that continuing strategy of good, better, best. And Sloan does that. A lot of people don't know this, but since 2018, the vast majority, the overwhelming majority of our faucets have the intelligence built into them. And we don't tell people about that. And we don't particularly advertise that, but the people who want to use it, they have that available to them. And we didn't charge any extra for it. And they can get the app off the web for free. And that puts us in being in the position of the plumbing manufacturer with the largest number of IoT data delivering devices in the world today, and that keeps on expanding. But there's really no charge to any of the users for that. It just comes built into those products.
Yeah.
But let's say that you have a special facility, a correctional facility, or a psychiatric facility, a mental health facility, one where you really need to be on top of your products and what they're used for and how they're used, and the fact that nobody can injure themselves or damage the facility using them. That's another class of smart products, one where control might be from a central screen, where you might have a hardwire connection to each one of those products. You can shut them off in case of an emergency. You can avoid the overuse or abuse of those products. So that might fit on the good side. And we have something called Program Water Technologies, PWT, that's used throughout those kinds of facilities. And then you have products that are also built to be smart, and they have that inherent capability, but they work into a much wider network, what we have branded as SC Argus Pro, Sloan Connect Argus Pro. And that's so, let's say if you have a state university system with campuses in multi-cities and very, very expensive, heavily used facilities, and you want to be connected to each one of those in real time, and you want to be able to do diagnoses and adjust products and measure efficiency, and be able to send teams to react to particular situations in real time at any one of your campuses in multiple locations that are controlled through centralized screens or even remote screens. Let's say you send all that information to somebody's iPad so that they can sit at home at 11 o'clock at night. Those emergency calls, they do come after 5 on Fridays. I guarantee that, right? Or before 4 a.m. on a Monday.
Emergency stop on the weekends, right?
No, right. Yeah. Be nice.
Every facility manager recognizes that it's built into the code, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so does somebody have to jump in their car and head to the facility, or can they pull out their iPad or their phone and deal with something that's been brought to their attention in real time?
How great is that? Yeah.
And go back to bed and then deal with it when they actually get to work, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
So, whether or not it's a soap dispenser, or hand dryer, or a toilet, or a urinal, or a faucet, or whatever sort of device that you have in the commercial restroom, to have the ability, if you want it, if you need it, whether it's designed from the get-go by the architect or the designer, or it's requested by the facility owner, or whether the business gets to a certain critical mass and they decide, this is what we have to do. This is the direction we want to go. Do we have to rip everything out and inconvenience our customers and shut down our facility? Or can we do it on the run with kits that are designed to upgrade to these kind of abilities? And that's the direction that we've gone with it. I hope the industry takes that as the way to go, because let's be honest, it's about customers and how they use the product and how their customers interact with them. And we can't lose sight of that. There's just going to be variations across all types of facilities.
Well, this
Absolutely.
conversation, Andy, has been fascinating, and as you wrapped it up right there, I heard a lot of technology, essentially, and you being the director of technical training at Sloan. How can someone reach out to you, or what other resources can they find for additional training on your products, your IoT products, and the non-connected products as well? How can we get more training from Andy and from Sloan?
Well, thank you for asking. I guess this is where I get a chance to plug Sloan online training.
Please do.
Because one of the things that we've been very busy doing is we set up an online learning management system. So we put on a number of subjects about a number of Sloan products, and we realized that people want to get to what they need to know as quickly as possible so they can deal with the situation that's in front of them at the moment. So if you go to the Sloan website and you look for the Sloan Training Center, you can set up an account, and it's totally free. And you can pick the courses you want or go to the courses that you want to. But operating under the dictum that what gets rewarded gets done is, we started with the philosophy that if people are going to take the time to come onto the Sloan Online Training Center and set up an account, then we are going to give them credit for what they're learning and put up an online store for Sloan swag.
Oh, cool.
And so we set up an economy. The chairman of Sloan, his name is Chuck. And so we set up Chuck's Bucks, and you can earn Chuck's Bucks for every
That's
course
great.
that people take, and you get Sloan gear, like something that's relevant, whether it's caps, jackets, coffee cups, Leatherman tools, all sorts of cool gear for it. And we're always adding new courses to that. I mean, you might not realize this, but there are over 24,500 saleable Sloan products.
Wow.
Very cool.
And so
Wow.
I think when it comes to creating content, I don't think we're going to get to the end of that anytime soon.
Nope. You'll be busy for a while.
Exactly. We need help. We really need help. So, or just shoot me a note, training@sloan.com.
Beautiful.
So awesome. Andy, before we let you go, how long have you been working with PM and Associates?
PM and Associates became a Sloan rep about 2 years ago. And it was my pleasure when your company first became a Sloan representative to travel to Indianapolis to provide training for PM Associates personnel, and then also host a number of personnel as they've come here to our Chicago headquarters and to our Chicago showroom. So it's been about 2 years, and it's been 2 very enjoyable years. But the fact is, actually, PM took over an agency, and there's a number of people that I've been working with for almost a decade.
That's great.
So
That's great. I was going to say it has been about 2 years now, and I know that there's several people in this company who know you very well, and I've just gotten to know you personally the past couple months, and it's just been such a great pleasure to be able to get to know you better. But I know for a fact that PM and Associates just has the best relationship with Sloan, and so I just wanted to extend that back to you as well, that we just absolutely love working with your company. So.
Well, Tiffany, it's a mutual love fest. Totally.
Yes.
I love it.
I can be open and upfront about it. It's a mutual admiration society from start to finish.
Absolutely. Well, I honestly could not think of a better way to end 2023
I agree.
with a greater guest than Andy from Sloan. So you have been absolutely fantastic. The subject and the topics that we have gotten to cover today have been so great, and
Yeah, so interesting.
yeah, absolutely. We could not thank you enough, Andy, for being a guest on Let That Sink In.
Hey, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really enjoy it anytime.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Andy.
And will you come back soon?
Oh, yeah.
Wonderful.
I feel like there's more we can talk about.
I know. We have many more topics
Great
to share.
discussion.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in. And for more information on Sloan, please reach out to our website at p-massoc.com. Thanks again, Andy.
Have a wonderful holiday.
Thanks, Andy.
You too.